So there's a ton of torture tests on YouTube where people throw these guns into mud and muddy water and so on, test them. So why did we decide to do our own? Well, because of the views.
Can we cut out just the no way and... No, I'm saying don't. Okay, let's just try another one.
Because we wanted to make our own testing protocol. But in all seriousness, we think that we can do a different kind of test and actually get different results from some of the other channels. For example, the tests that were recently done, and they are very prolific, were the in-range mud tests, where Ian and Carol put loaded rifles into a wheelbarrow full of mud and they cover them with mud and then shoot them. Why are those tests so infamous? Because they got different results than most of the shooters expected. The AK did terribly and the AR passed with flying colors. I think that's mostly due to the fact how that test was done. So when you put a loaded rifle and cover it with mud, what you're essentially testing is how much mud can get into the gun, and that is the defining factor. Because as you can see from some of their footage, and they also mentioned this, the problem with the AK is that dirt can get into the opening and workings of the guns way easier than with an AR. Because of the design of the AR, it's more closed, everything is tight fitting, and because of how the gun works with direct impingement, the gases actually blow the dirt away from the opening in the gun. This doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with those tests. Those tests are perfectly valid and the results are valid. Just in my opinion, it seems that they're testing more of how much dirt can come into a gun than actually how reliable the gun is when the dirt is in the gun. For example, they tested the F2000, and as you know, the F2000S version is used by Slovenian military. I have some experience with that rifle. It did really good on the mud test, because that system is fully enclosed. It's very hard for any dirt to come in, but in reality, when we had problems, if you had a jam on that rifle, it was terrible. Like, the problem is that you cannot open the bolt as on a normal rifle, and it's really hard to reach in, it's really hard to solve any issues that arise in that gun. So if you would get dirt or debris or anything into F2000, it would do terribly. But on the mud test, it did great just because no debris came into the gun. And the same thing we could say for some other guns, which I want to test today. Why? Because from my experience of years and years of shooting and using different guns, and I do shoot a lot, I had different results than what you would expect from the in-range test. So in my experience, AKs rarely malfunction. They do, don't get me wrong, they do. But they rarely malfunction, and it has to be a lot of dirt or something really wrong that they stop working. On the other hand, ARs malfunction more frequently. If you're not cleaning the rifle properly, if you are not lubricating the rifle properly, if you're using suppressor for too long, or if you're getting any dirt into the gun, it malfunctions way quicker than an AK. How do we know that? You can see it from our video from Poland. Just a bit of sand, a bit of dirt that came into the gun caused a lot of problems. As a counterpoint, when we were in Finland for Finnish brutality, my AK jammed, but that was only one jam and the rifle was full of sand and I had an extra strong spring in it for lighter recoil. So this is what I want to test today. If the dirt comes into the gun, how does it perform? For Team AK, we have the Zastava M70B1. This is a Yugoslavian-made AK. This one made specifically in 1984, and it's a military rifle. The only difference is that it was converted to semi-auto only. The magazine, it's also full steel, Yugoslavian-made. These are really good magazines. For Team AR, we have the Windham Weaponry, civilian-made AR with a 10.5-inch barrel. And for the magazine, that was not that good. We're using the Oberland Arms, essentially a European copy of the Magpul. So why did I choose this rifle? Well, because I know it's really reliable. This is my first AR, and this is actually the AR that brought me more to this spectrum of rifles also. It has a short, I think, rifle length gas system, and it's essentially quite overgassed from the factory, and that means that it just works without a problem. How do I know? Because for the first 1,000 rounds I didn't even clean it. I still rarely clean it. I shoot with a suppressor, and I shoot a lot with it, and it's not perfect, it's not a high-end AR, but it's really reliable. So that's why I'm using this for our test. For the test, we'll use this container, which is definitely not a baking pan. It will contain a mixture of small sand and dirt, and we will do drop tests with the mags into this container, essentially introducing dirt into the mag and then loading that mag into the gun. For the test, we're using quality ammo. It's a rare and below, brass casing, full metal jacket. The protocol is like this: 10 rounds in the magazine, we'll load one in the chamber and put the weapon on safe. Then we do the drop test, turn the mag upside down so any big debris comes out, and then load it in the gun and shoot. So what we have noticed is that the AK magazine, for some reason, takes way more dirt inside and into the gun, but for now it's not causing any problems. What we also noticed is that this dry media, I think it's shaking into the magazine and not coming into the workings of the gun. So now we'll step it up a notch with introducing water and making a mud of sorts. It's a very sandy mud. Out of battery. Okay, it doesn't want to go. Let's try to get the round out. Okay. Okay, there were two malfunctions where the bolt did not want to go fully into battery, but otherwise, looking at this was surprisingly good. So as you can see, both of the rifles are quite dirty. A lot of stuff came into the workings of the gun. The AR had two malfunctions, and it was just the bolt was not able to go fully into battery. But otherwise I think both performed really well. And now we'll continue with the same test to get maybe better results. Let's try it a couple of times. Malfunction. I'm not sure if this is a live round. Yes, it was a live round. It did not go fully into battery. This one the same. The bolt does not go into battery, so I'll try to charge it again. The bolt is still not fully in battery. I'm not sure if this would be good to fire. It does not seem fully locked. Okay, now it's fully in battery. Same problem again. The gun is really, really dirty. Okay. We have failure to feed properly. And you can see we have a lot of gunk inside. Try to lock bolt back, get the magazine out. There was one round that fell out. Clear it a bit. Okay. This one also doesn't want to go into battery. And lock back. So now both of the rifles have problems. So before continuing with the test, we'll just load another 10 rounds in the magazine and try to shoot more to see if the action clears up. And the bolt locks back. Not into battery. Let's try it again. Okay. Lock back. Let's try another 10. Better. Okay, so it does not go into battery again, and you're not able to push it into battery. Now it went. Okay, that was good. Okay, so that's it.
Let's go all in, let's submerge them totally.
Okay. It's out of battery. And it's empty. I don't think this is safe to shoot. I'm actually quite surprised that the rifles are still able to run, because as you can see, the magazines are full of dirt, full of mud, full of sand. It's actually really hard to load them. So I think this is the this will be the last test. Just pour as much mud as we can in the magazines and try it out. Okay, still kind of works. I don't know how, but it does. Samo, get 10 new rounds in here. Okay. Fuck. This will not be good. Go, fucker. Go into battery. Oh shit, it's a double feed. No wonder. Okay. Let's leave this one in. Yeah, we'll get another double feed. I think this is a bit too much for the AR. The forward assist, it does nothing. Oh yeah, and the magazine also is not functioning properly. Shit. Let's do this. Let's try to chamber one round so it has a chance to maybe, oh fuck, to clean itself. This is the wrong round. Ooh, just a bit more. Nah, it doesn't want to go. I think this is just a bit too much for the AR, but we also had a problem with the magazine. Samo, can you try loading a fresh magazine, 10 rounds? Maybe when we try to load a couple of rounds, maybe shoot one, the action could clear itself. We'll see. In the meantime, we have an AK here with the same mag, 10 fresh rounds. Already does not work. Does not go into battery. Goes into battery. So AK essentially became a single action rifle, single shot. What I'm doing here, when the bolt is not fully in battery, I have to manually push it so it fires, otherwise it won't. Fresh magazine, fresh rounds. Almost. Ah! That was so close. Ah! It started to run. Let's do another one, please. That's what I'm talking about. The more you shoot, the more it cleans itself. That was nice. So what's the conclusion? Well, first, I'm pleasantly surprised by both of the rifles because they performed way better than I expected. So well, in fact, that we had to pour water into our dry dirt to make mud to actually stick more of it in the magazines and put more into the workings of the gun. Even when some mud was introduced into the guns, you could see they were still running relatively fine. The problem were small particles of sand or a bit bigger rocks that probably came between the locking lugs, and both of the rifles had some problems with actually getting the bolt into battery. With an AR, a couple of times I was able to use the forward assist, and on the AK I was able to use just a slam on the bolt handle and it put the bolt into battery. What we also noticed during the test is that for some reason AK magazines put way more mud into the action of the gun than an AR magazine, but also the AK was able to process that mud much better. I think this is because of the overgassing of the gun and how it works. It has very strong springs, very heavy bolt, and it just tries to grind all of that small rocks into powder, I guess, so there's less and less obstructions with each shot. We could observe this also with an AR when it stopped functioning. When we're trying just to get the rounds into the chamber and out, we're essentially cleaning the gun, you know, like every round took a bit of a dirt out, and when we were finally able to use a fresh magazine, fresh rounds, load it into the chamber, when it shot, again, you get back pressure from the round, you get some gases vented into the action, and that helps clear the gun. And at the end you could see that both of the rifles were firing fine, so they were essentially self-cleaning. Personally, this is the first stress test that I did ever in this manner, and I'm very, very pleasantly surprised. These are both my rifles, and I'm proud. If you have any good ideas for videos, if you would like to see some other guns tested in this way, please let us know. And of course, help us beat the YouTube algorithm. Please like and comment on this video. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.